Well, happy Tuesday and happy daylight savings time. I hope it makes you happy. Welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Tom. Well, March is designated Women's History Month. This month honors women's contribution to American history, or in American history. It began as a local celebration in Santa Rosa, California. The Education Task Force of the Sonoma County, California Commission on the Status of Women planned and executed a Women's History Week celebration in 1978. The organizers selected the week of March 8th to correspond with International Women's Day, and the movement spread across the country as other communities initiated their own Women's History Week celebration the following year. In 1980, a consortium of women's groups and historians led by the National Women's History Project, now the National Women's History Alliance, successfully lobbied for national recognition, and in February of 1980, probably one of the best presidents we've ever had, President Jimmy Carter, issued the first presidential proclamation declaring the week of March 8th, 1980, as National Women's History Week. Subsequent presidents continued to proclaim National Women's History Week in March until 1987, when Congress passed Public Law 100-9, designating March as Women's History Month. Between 88 and 94, Congress passed additional resolutions authorizing the president to proclaim March of each year as Women's History Month. President Jimmy Carter said, "Many of the women in our lives are unsung. Their achievements don't change the world, but then it does in a lot of ways. I think about my own life history and the women who influenced me for the better. My mom and her 4 sisters, my dad and his 6 sisters, and this is my family I'm talking about, and the community that they made possible for us, the children and cousins. My aunts gave me the nickname Tulson. I don't know where that name came from. I don't even know how to spell it, but they all called me Tulson for whatever reason. It came with a lot of love and encouragement, and when I went to college, my Aunt Clara, my mom's sister, used to write me encouraging letters, pushing me through tough times. My mom was like one of my coaches, always encouraging, the perfect partner for my dad. My high school speech teacher, Miss Horn, was my friend. The very first boss I had at Bell South was a woman, Terry Self. Gave me my first lessons in corporate America. History, especially women's history, is always about the big moments when the spotlight finds someone in the darkness. In my case, my women's history, for the most part, has been love, belonging, and learning. Thank you to the women in my life who made that possible. Our G-List guest today is, well, it's a monthly roundtable, and we look forward to that conversation. Our show today, of course, is brought to you by the consulting firm of Best Girl. So let's catch up with Best Girl.
Best Girl is a consulting firm that provides customized leadership, access and inclusion, public relations, communications, and organizational consulting services. Clients include Fortune 500 companies, utilities, higher education institutions, small businesses, and associations. Best Girl's team of consultants, led by Joyce Gilly-Gossom, Emily Hedrick, and Sean Jones, partners with business and education clients to promote organizational effectiveness, communication, motivation, and leadership, with always an impact on the bottom line. Best Girl's customized consulting services include strategic planning, corporate communication, executive coaching, fundraising, and economic development.
All right, so we're going to go to the round table this morning and have a round table discussion. Let's go to the round table and bring in Barbara Wallace Edwards, Mychal Walker, and Barbara Larkin. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Good morning to all.
Okay, so when we talk about women's history, I can tell you, my dad had 6 sisters and my mom had 4 sisters. And so there were a lot of women around all the time. And I don't know how they came up with this name Tulsa, but they all used to call me Tulsa. And I just remembered that the other day. Now, I don't know where it came from. I don't even know how to spell it. But that was what everybody called me. So.
I love it.
All right,
Yes,
which
it's
one you
amazing how
Barbara?
they come up with those names.
First, yeah.
We'll let Barbara Larkin go first.
Okay.
So, this morning, we're celebrating Women's History Month, and I want to lead off with a couple of the women who made outstanding influences in my life. Of course, my mother, which all of us would say that first, right? Our mothers were our best influence because she was there day by day for as long as she could be there. And I was blessed to have my mother for well over 60 years, so that was a blessing. But there's a lady named Fannie Lou Hamer, and I know you all are familiar with her, but I really love this lady because she came from absolutely nothing in Sunflower, Mississippi, and she stood before Congress and testified about what happened to her in Mississippi during the Civil Rights Movement. And this always touches my heart because when she was to do her testimony back, I believe in 1963, I think it was, or 64, somewhere in there, and she was going to be, they were going to televise her testimony before Congress. Well, President Johnson was in the office at that time. So he did not want um, her, Miss Hamer's testimony to be televised. He really didn't. So what he did is he said he was going to have a news conference and he was going to make an appointment. He was going to make an important announcement. Well, it came up that he superseded her in having that news slot, and it was really like something that was not really even important. And the news people were very disappointed, and they were very um, they talked about it a lot. But the news of Fannie Lou Hamer, giving her testimony to the to Congress was so powerful that they kept running that news of her testimony over and over and over again. And even now, you can go to YouTube and see her actively giving that testimony. And it was powerful. It was moving. It made your heart bleed because she talked about the price that she paid and other people who went down to the courthouse to vote for her, other people who were beaten the in the jail with her so that we would have the right to vote. Fannie Lou Hamer stands as a giant in this civil rights movement in our right for us to vote. And what breaks my heart about this is that in 1867, the African American men of the state of Alabama went to register to vote without conflict after the freedom came in 1863-65. In 1867, my great great grandfather and John Lewis's great great grandfather walked into the courthouses unobstructed to go and vote. But after Reconstruction was murdered, buried, and killed by the Southerners and the Northerners, it was a combined thing. Then we had to start all over, and Fannie Lou Hamer had to pay that price. But I think about her every time I go to vote because I know that she paid the price for us to once again be able to vote. So Fannie Lou Hamer is who I highlight today.
Hey, Barbara, you may want to, I don't know if it's, but you got to, when you talk, there's a, yeah, you might want to push it back. It may be the microphone. I have no idea, but
Is that better? Can
it
you
makes
hear
a
me?
noise every time you talk.
Okay, all right. Let me
So,
see.
Barbara Wallace Edwards, what you got?
Well, Tom, highlighting the women who have been influential in our lives. Of course, my mom. I've told this story many times before. How she was a high school dropout, married at the age of 16, had two children by the time she was 18, and ended up having six children. But my mom had always promised her parents that she was going back to school to get her education. And after having six kids, she could have taken the easy route, taken the GED, but she decided she was going back to night school. And that's what she did. She herded the kids up at night, and we go to school with her. We go to sit in the library while she was in her classes, do our homework. She'd come and check our homework between classes, and she worked hard and got her high school degree, and then went to business college after that, and went on to, she was involved in the community, involved in the church. And people ask me, where do I get my drive and motivation from? It's from my mom. She was just an amazing woman, and all that she accomplished with, so little in life. Didn't have her driver's license. She went back and studied and got her driver's license as an adult again after having 6 children. So that's something that I am certainly proud of, and knowing that my mom could accomplish so much with starting in so little. Yeah, just a remarkable woman.
You've seen that commercial where the young boy, he's gotten up to be maybe 8, 9, 10 years old, and his mom takes him to school, and when he gets ready to leave her, he gives her the side hug.
Yeah.
Instead of
yes.
It happened.
And it's amazing how we get to that point in life where, it's like, Mama, don't be hugging me in front of everybody out here.
Right.
It's embarrassing.
Oh, yes.
I thought that was pretty cool.
That is cool. And I want to highlight another woman who was very influential in my life as well, my Aunt Pearl. My Aunt Pearl was never married, never had children of her own, and she lived with my parents. My grandparents lived with my parents until they both passed away. Wow. And my aunt, who was next to the baby, my dad was the youngest in the family, but she was next to the baby. She lived with us before I was born up until I was a junior in college. And so she was like a second mom. It was always like having a second mom in the house. And both of those women taught me so much, between my mom and my aunt. I love them both. Of course, they're both going on to heaven now, but I'll never, ever forget the impact they've had on my life.
That's great. Yeah. Mychal?
Well, I'd have to say ditto to what everyone say. I would have to say that, my grandmother, who basically raised me, played a very important role. And I see all these philosophies that are going on and stuff, and she always, would tell me certain things that I remember to this day, different things like, one, use your head for more than a hat rack. And I was like, right. What are you talking about? Use your brains. That's what you have it for. It's not a hat rack. Right. And she would tell me a lot of different things that are very applicable. They stand through the test of time. And from time to time, I make reference to that. And I'm certainly appreciative of all the wisdom that she provided with me. And one of the things you mentioned drive, Barbara, and I would say that I would think, I get my drive from both my grandfather and my grandmother, but I would think that some of it, probably the mental toughness, came from her because of the things she would do to me. I remember running home one day and I was saying, look, I made a 99. And she said, why didn't you make 100?
100, yeah.
And I said, well, nobody made 100. She said, I don't care about nobody.
Nobody,
why didn't you make 100?
Right, exactly.
And then she'd make me go and study and take the test over again to make 100. And she would grade it. And she'd say, I want to make sure that the next time that question come up, you'd know the answer.
Absolutely.
So I have to say those are a lot of the lessons that I learned from her. And it was that type of stuff. But I wanted to share this. I was coming across this and doing a little research, and there's a lot of interesting things. I have to say now that I'm really happy with the internet and what have you, because now we get to learn things we never learned in school, and so it's like we're continuing to get exposed to different things. We all heard of Cleopatra, but did you know that she ascended to the throne at the age of 17? Wow. And she died at the age of 39.
Oh, wow.
And in that short period of time, she spoke 9 languages. She knew the language of ancient Egypt and had learned to read hieroglyphics. I don't even know what that is, but you heard of it before.
Yes.
But she could read that. She also knew Greek and the language of the Hebrews and the troglodytes. You know, I heard troglodytes on a rap song. I thought it was made up. They actually have a language called the troglodytes. She knew that, Syrian, Ethiopian, and Arab. And with all of this stuff, she was an author. She learned geography, history, astronomy, as well as international diplomacy.
Wow.
So just imagine all the things that she did in that short period of time, from becoming the queen at age 17 until her death in 39.
Wow.
You know,
Amazing.
Well educated.
back when our era, you know, and I heard somebody say their mom went back to business school. My mom did as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, their opportunities were so limited.
Right.
And, you know, it was thought that women should be at home and raising the family and taking care of the house and so on and so forth, which is what my mom did. But then my mom went back to school as well. And my mom went to Mychal High School, which was a Catholic high school in Birmingham that is still there. I think it's the elementary school now. My granddad helped build that school. And so it was, my mother and them didn't have a choice as to where they were going to school.
Right.
For real.
But
Right.
and if you go over there, and I don't know if it's still there, but you walk down the hall and there are photos of all these classes. This Immaculata was a pretty big deal, especially, boy, they had basketball teams that were just out of sight. And as a little kid, I could go with my aunts. But my mom, she was, I mean, my mom and dad, I look at them now, man, they were the perfect partners, you know, and because daddy did the manual labor and my mom basically told him what to do.
Yeah, the brains behind the operation.
He always said, you know, if you need something done and it needs to, you know, your dad can do it. But now if it's got to look really good and everything finished, we need to hire somebody because daddy is going to throw it together. She would give him a hard time, but he never would complain. And you know, I just remember that you know, when Mychal, when you were talking about the lessons, and I know we all got this one, when you'd say something about so and so, and then, well, little Jimmy did it. Well, if little Jimmy jump off the building, you gonna jump off
too?
That's the one.
Yes.
No, Mama, I ain't gonna jump off.
That's the one.
Little Jimmy did.
Yes. Yeah, Michael's story reminded me of one time I had all A's and one B on my report card, and I was so excited. You know, I was like, oh my, I forgot the best report card of all the kids in the family because my older brother, he had a lot of C's and a couple of B's, but very few A's. And at that time, my brother younger than me was in school also, and he had pretty much all B's. So I was so excited. I ran home and I was like, hey, I got the best report card this time. My mom looked at the report card. She said, you have a B. I was like, yes, ma'am. And she said, why didn't you have all A's? I was like, well, but they, you know, Jerry has some C's and Mike got all B's. I mean, I thought I was doing what she said, but you're capable of making all A's. She said, so I'm not satisfied. And I'm thinking, darn. I was thinking I was going to be, you're right. It didn't work. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, no, I'm not, this is not acceptable. You're capable of making all A's. So this is what I expect next time. Like, oh, okay.
It's amazing how mothers knew our capability.
Oh, yes.
We didn't know it. We didn't pay attention. We just said, okay, I'm going to do this and I'll do it. But she knew we could do more.
Right.
Yeah. That it is so funny how you learn so many different things with them, and like Thom, the one that you were just talking about, if so and so jump off the cliff, are you gonna do it as well? I got that from them, but I find it now where I apply it in business, where we're discussing and doing crisis management or something like that. and I have already researched or I have experience to draw on, and we're debating, and the other people do not have the experience to draw on, and they're just jumping off the cliff with emotions and stuff, you know. And I sit back and I go the other way. And many times it's me going against the grain. But I
Right.
keep remembering her saying, if so and so jump off the cliff, or you gonna jump off the cliff, you know better. And so I kind of apply that to business and making decisions, and it served me well, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's funny. You know, I wanted to share this with you. You know, you think about, you remember the paper bag and people sitting at the games with the paper bag over their head and stuff like that, the fans.
The Aints.
Well,
Remember the Aints?
The Aints, yeah, the Aints
yeah,
down in New Orleans.
The Aints made it famous, didn't they? Well,
Yes.
did you know that America got a brand new paper bag when cotton mill worker Margaret Knight invented a machine to make them with a flat square bottom in 1868?
Wow.
Paper bags originally looked more like envelopes. A man named Charles Onman saw her design and tried to patent the idea first. Knight filed a lawsuit and won a patent fair and square in 1871. And thus you have the paper bag.
The paper bag.
Wow.
I like that.
It's amazing. Go ahead, Tom. I'm sorry.
Yeah. President Carter had another saying. President Carter said that from the first settlers who came to our shores, from the first American Indian families who befriended them, men and women have worked together to build this nation. Too often the women were unsung and sometimes their contributions went unnoticed, but the achievements, leadership, courage, strength, and love of the women who built America was as vital as that of the men whose names we know so well. And that is a fact, because we think we know the men who, quote, built the country.
Right.
And I think we're waking up to
Yes.
who all built the company, built the country.
That was a name that I ran across that I'd never heard before, and I don't know if you all have heard of Minnie Cox. Have you all ever heard that name before? Miss Minnie Cox was a black woman who ran a post office so well that the white supremacists tried to drive her out of town. And the president of the United States shut down the entire town instead. He decided he'd just shut down the post office. If she couldn't be the postmaster, then they wouldn't have a post office there. So this was in the Mississippi Delta back at the end of the 19th century, and power was supposed to look one way, and that was white, male, and untouchable. But in 1891, the federal government placed a black woman in charge of something the town relied on every single day. And she proved that she was the best at the job. She even took her own money and put a phone at the post office, which the government wasn't paying for at the time. But she put a phone there out of her own pocket, and so that they could call into the post office to see if their mail was there or whatever. And so she went above and beyond to do her job. But the whites in the town, especially the men, were so unhappy with her being a black female, they decided they were going to run her out of town. The president said, well, if you run her out, we'll just shut the post office down. And the president continued to pay her, even though the post office was closed and the people were having to drive 30 miles away to get their mail every day. So, it's just amazing the things we didn't learn in our history books, but it's so important to American history.
Now they don't want you to learn them now.
They don't.
That's why they give you these silly nicknames like woke and stuff like that. And,
right.
I don't even know what it means, man.
They don't either, Tom.
I know I ain't sleep. I know that.
Right. Yeah.
Because if you go to sleep, the whole thing will have passed you by.
It sure will.
We have to stay woke.
Barbara, let me make sure that I understood correctly. So they went ahead and forced her out of town anyway, right?
No, she stayed in town. They forced her out of the job.
So they forced her out of the job.
Yes.
And they had to start driving 30 miles or whatever to get her mail because they shut down
to
the
get
post office.
The mail for the whole city because they shut the post office down in that city. Yes.
So they'd rather shut down the post office.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Than to have her. That's so interesting. That reminds me of something else here. Windshield wipers. Drivers were skeptical when Mary Anderson invented the first manual windshield wipers in
Right.
1903.
Mm-hmm.
They thought it was safer to drive with rain and snow obscuring the road than to pull a lever to clear it. Another woman inventor, Charlotte Bridgewood, invented an automatic version with an electric roller in 1917. It didn't take off either. By the time Anderson's patent expired in 1920, windshield wipers were cleaning up. Cadillac was the first to include them in every car model, and other companies soon followed.
Wow.
So that goes back. This woman invents the windshield wipers, and they wouldn't use them.
You wouldn't use it because you didn't buy a black woman.
Yeah.
Or a woman. I'm sorry, it may not have been a black woman.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And so they would rather do that. That's pretty funny. So
it is.
Yeah, it is
amazing.
That's another saying that my grandmother taught me. You're cutting off your nose to despite your face.
Right, right. They had some sayings, I tell you that.
They did. They really did.
I don't know how big you guys' families were, but my mom had, had 4 sisters. My dad had 6 sisters.
Mm-hmm.
Man, you know, it was a community.
It was.
I just think about all the fun things that they gave us and so on and so forth, and how when we would get together and hang out, how much fun it was.
Oh, yes.
It was great. And I had two other women outside the family. One was Terry Self. Terry Self was my first boss at Bell South, and a woman. And we would sit and talk, and she was wonderful to me. She was a listener, and you could talk to her, and I realized how great she was when I moved to another job and I got an egghead man, and we didn't get along at all. And,
was his name Mr. Magoo?
He was close. He should have been. He had me doing some simple stuff, and I had to tell him one time. I said, "Man, that stuff you got me doing, a monkey could do that." Right. I said, "We could get a monkey and train him and just let him do my job." I don't think he liked that too much.
He's trying to keep you in a slot, Tom. That's what, that black job.
Trying to keep you in your lane. That's what it was.
Yes,
it was great.
And they want you to show him up. So
and then,
that's right.
Miss Horn was my high school speech teacher, and she was the one who got me started really in the communications field. And she was so cool. And she died at the school.
Oh wow!
During the summer, she was there. She was always there. It was her life. She never married, and that school was her life, man. And she would do things. There was this, this was we were at the beginning of integration in Birmingham, and so there were a lot of things that some things you could do, but most of them we were still breaking. And we had to, as James Owens said, when we integrated the football team, James said, "Well, we were there to break in the fans," and he said we had to get the fans used to seeing a couple of black guys out there.
Right.
And I think Miss Horn had that kind of idea, and Miss Horn would always come up to me and she said, "That girl, Janet, I think she likes you." And I said, "Miss Horn, don't be doing that. Don't do that. That's a white girl. Don't do that." "Well, go to ask her out sometime." "I ain't gonna ask that girl out." She was progressive. She was wonderful. She gave me all kinds of things and pushed me to writing. She started me writing for the school paper, and she was just a wonderful, wonderful human being. And when I talk about my history, I always have to include Miss Horn. Boy, she was something. And she was a bigger woman. Let me just put it that way. I don't mean to be ugly in any way about it, but man, she could catch your ear like this and take you to your knees, buddy.
She specialized in the ear.
Like, okay, I got it. I'll do it. So it was good. And then most of the professor teachers that I had in elementary school were nuns, and
Mhm.
so that was a different experience and
Right.
relating to a nun and stuff. And like I said, I went to Catholic school for 12 years, so that was it was a different experience. But there you got a lot of influence from women
Absolutely.
during those 12 years. And then one time we found my mom's report card, and my mom had all A's, and then she said,
Mhm.
see, she pointed to me. See what I'm telling you here? So, like, no, I don't want to make all A's. That makes me a nerd. Huh? Yeah, she did. She would stay on me.
But she was
So
right. She was
She was
right.
right.
She
Yeah.
was right.
she was. You know, this. I think the thing about our family, and we'll come back to this after we do the other thing, is man, we were allowed. I don't know, but we were allowed to talk to our parents, not talk back, but to talk
Right.
to them.
To them, yes.
Yeah, about what was going on, and that was the
Mhm.
difference when I joined the football team at Auburn, and they weren't used to people talking to them. You
Right.
know, coach wasn't used to you saying you having an opinion about something, and
Mhm.
I was used to having an opinion because my parents allowed me to have an opinion.
Of
You know,
course.
so yeah, that was interesting. So why don't we go on and we'll come back after the best girl. We catch up with best girl, and I think and we'll go to Sean. She's got a minute for us. So
Okay.
uh, did we do the best girl thing already?
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay, I thought so. So let's go to Sean. She's got a minute for us. Sean, you there?
I think so.
Sean's a mom. We'll have to get Sean to tell him.
Good morning to everyone joining in with us. My name is Shantia Jones, and this has Got a Minute. Can y'all see me? Can y'all hear me? Well, good, because I'm here, and here's the truth. Somewhere in the world right now, a baker is pulling the first tray of bread out of the oven. A street sweeper is finishing the last block before the city wakes up. Someone is watering plants that are quietly growing towards the summer. Most mornings begin this way, quietly, with ordinary things being done well. It's easy to think meaningful thoughts have to be big or dramatic, but most of life is built from small, steady actions repeated over time. A loaf of bread rises slowly, our garden grows a little bit each day, a morning becomes a life. Sometimes the most powerful thing about a day is simply that the day begins again. And that's it. That's your minute. Now, y'all go out and have a great day. And if you don't want to, then that's your business, but don't make it anybody else's. Mom, if you're watching today, I love you and I'll be over for dinner later. Bye. Thank you all for joining in. My name is Shantia Jones, and this has Got a Minute.
If you hear me here, we'd like for you to come back and participate in the round table since we're talking
I'm
about
here.
moms, and you are a mom.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm sure you've got some relatable stories to this whole conversation. So tell us about your son.
Okay. Well, my son is Kai. He's 10 years old. Actually, he's 10, and I feel like he's living in like a 40-year-old man's body because he is out of this world. He's very mature, very calculated, very quiet, and he's very clever. And similar to your parents, like he has an opinion and he says it, and I'm just like, okay. So that's my baby. I miss him. He's been causing some mischief lately. So we're working on it.
All right, who else has got something here?
Well, I know that I like to share this with you. We especially in corporate America and stuff, and especially back at the time when we started, Tom, we always said that the secretary knew where all the skeletons were, and and they knew anything going on in the company. You need to talk to the secretaries. But secretaries have one of the most important jobs, which were keeping the CEO, keeping the company moving and all of that, but they were probably one of the most underpaid people on the payroll, wouldn't you say?
Mhm.
But that wasn't the case for Betty Naismith Graham. Before the days of the delete key, she, working as a secretary, secretly used white tempera paint to cover up her typing errors. She spent years perfecting the formula in her kitchen before patenting liquid paper in 1958.
Wow.
Wow.
Liquid
Gillette,
paper, right out, right?
White
Why
out.
not?
Yeah.
Right out. Okay.
White
yeah,
out.
Gillette bought her company in 1979 for $47.5 million, and that's no typo.
Wow.
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 That's pretty
Wow.
amazing.
That
Yes.
is
Mhm.
So
amazing.
small yet so important.
Yes,
Yeah.
Mhm.
yes,
Yeah.
all from being a secretary.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
The secretaries are the ones who knows everything, and she would often, not in a negative way, but keep stuff from the boss that he didn't need to know at that
Right.
particular time.
Mhm. Mhm.
you know,
Yes.
and she would tell you, "Don't tell him, and I'll take care of it."
That's right.
And
She was the
it's like,
gatekeeper.
Yes, she
yeah,
was.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very
exactly.
important position.
She would discreetly tell you, well, because that's not any of his business.
Hmm. Right.
Pretty much.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd like
yeah,
to say something about my grandmothers. My mother was an only child. Is this coming through pretty well,
Yeah,
Tom?
there you go. You're good.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. My mother was an only child, so my grandmother was a very special grandmother because she really enjoyed her grandchildren. That would be my two brothers and myself. And I loved her because she was such a great cook. I learned nothing from her in cooking, but nevertheless, I loved her cooking. But then there was my father's mother, whom I did not really get to know at all. I only had one encounter with her when I was about 8 years old. So she was just a blank sheet of paper as far as I was concerned. The only thing that I remember is that when she died, my father cried. So I thought, well, this she must be pretty okay. But what I didn't understand, but I understand now, is that she raised 10 children, 6 girls, 4 boys, and 2 grandsons. Now, that's a pretty large family. But what happened is when my dad was about 17, my grandfather died. So she had 6 children and 2 grandsons at home with her. I did not know this until I started doing my family history and started reading the census. And I didn't know the census could have so much information. So here she was, probably with a fourth grade education, running a farm, running a grist mill business, raising 8 children at home, and 2 grandsons. Your husband is deceased, and in 1940, you had zero income. Zero income. How did she make it? Fortunately, I asked my father before he died, how did she make it? I mean, how did she make money? He said, well, one thing she did is she took in washing and ironing so that the older girls would do the washing and the ironing for other people in the community. The boys had to do the farm. They could not run the gristmill business because that was just too much. So this is how they made money. But as they got older, they began to leave, get married, or go to Birmingham in order to have jobs. They were all situated on a farm in Uniontown, Alabama. So there were two girls left at home, Lucille and my Aunt Eva. Now, those two went to Tuskegee Institute and graduated. One became a nurse, one became a school teacher. I said, "Well, how did she do it?" He said, "Well, that granddaddy had some land that was that they were not using, and she sold it to the school board at in Uniontown, and they bought it from her. That gave her a pot of money to be able to finance these girls going to school and having a profession." So when my aunt Eva got her first check when she started teaching in the country school, I've got a picture of her with her students, and there was no grass. The school building wasn't painted. It was like up on stilts. It was just an old country school building. When Aunt Eva got her first check, grandmother said, "The first check is mine. I paid for your education. This is my check." And so Aunt Eva had no check her first month of teaching, but grandmother wanted to let her know that she had to make sacrifices too. And I was very, very proud to learn those stories of how strong she was and how committed she was to her family in the face of so many, many difficulties. So I admire my grandmother. Um, Pitts, because she had to really, really struggle. She did. Yeah.
There was
Yeah.
a whole lot of togetherness, I guess you'd call it,
Yes.
went from that era, and how you talking about people helped each other. When his brother, my dad, Sonny, Reese, Aiken, they were all brothers. They all went to the military.
Mm.
And when they in World War II, when they got back, they would get their GI check and give it to their sisters, their younger sisters, so they could go to college.
Mm-hmm.
And the younger sisters went to college and graduated. And my one of my aunts on the other side, on my mom's side of the family, got to go to college as well. And she went to Miles College, and she became the homecoming queen at
Wow.
Miles College, and took me to my first football game. I had not been to a football game before that. And so it was, you remember these things. There was a lot that they did for you that doesn't qualify as some big thing, whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
Right.
going to that first football game and seeing my aunt dressed up as the homecoming queen is still in my memory. And
Yes.
um, so I'm very, very grateful for them. When I went to college, my aunt Clara, who they had moved to California by then, my mom's sister married my dad's brother. And so one part of that family moved to California. And my aunt Clara would write me letters when I was in college, encouraging letters as to getting ahead and so on and so forth. And so um, they're they're a huge part, I think, of my history. Um,
Yeah.
so,
I, I remember our every weekend there was a family gathering. My dad had six sisters as well, and they were a very close knit family. As I mentioned, my dad's parents lived with us and until they passed away. Unfortunately, my grandmother passed away before I was born. But there was always a family gathering every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We were gathering at somebody's house.
Mm-hmm.
And so you talk about big meals. Fridays were fish fryers. Every Friday we're going to have fish fries and some type of seafood, and everybody was coming to one of the sisters or one of the siblings' houses, and it was just like a big party. Saturdays was like picnics. We're going to either go to the beach or go to a park somewhere or in somebody's backyard, and they'd be grilling and again, all kind of sides were prepared. That's where I learned how to cook, was watching them prepare all this food. And then Sundays was Sunday dinner at the church. We were gathering at somebody's house for Sunday dinner. And so it was always like a family reunion every weekend because so many of the siblings were there. And that's why I'm so close to my siblings and my cousins and, aunts and uncles. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful time growing up, and all the wonderful memories I have of spending time with the family and the influential women who were in our lives. It's just remarkable memories.
Yep. Mychal?
Well, it's funny how we spend time with stains and stuff on our clothes and what have you. And, like how people go in and put plastic over the couch so you don't get stains on it and stuff. Yeah. Well, in 1952, a 3M chemist, Patsy Sherman, she was perplexed when some fluorochemical rubber spilled on a lab assistant's shoe and wouldn't come off. Without changing the color of the shoe, the stain repelled water, oil, and other liquids. Sherman and her co-inventor, Samuel Smith, called it Scotch Guard. And the rest is preserving your couch.
Wow.
Wow.
We've sat on a lot of plastic over the couches, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
Yes.
Yes,
That
we
and
have.
the hard carpet runners, like if you
Oh,
step on the
yes.
bottom of it. Oh
Yes.
yes.
Yeah. And don't have to pick them up because the little thing on the end.
Oh
just
my
stabs
gosh.
Duck in
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
My mom
Oh,
used to
yes.
always say, "Hey, we're going to grandma's house." I'm like, "Do we have to go over
I
there?"
know. And see, if they didn't have air conditioning and it was in the summer and you had your shorts on, then the plastic would stick to your legs. Oh gosh.
We couldn't even sit on the plastic. My granny's like, "Sit outside," and we were like, "Sit outside." Mom, when are we going home?
And if you sit on the plastic, you didn't want to move because it made that noise. Crack.
Right.
Yes.
That's crunching noise.
Yes. And then
That
my
is-
grandma comes, "Y'all stop moving around and making all that noise." But I'm like, "But grandma, we stuck."
It was stuck. That's true.
Great. It was a lot of fun.
Yes.
You didn't know what you didn't have.
That's
And
true.
So you didn't worry about what you didn't have.
Right.
And, we had a saying, and we had one here. We always said, well, we have enough for today.
Mhm.
And we don't know what'll happen tomorrow, but today we're fine. We got
Good.
enough
We're
of
fine.
everything.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it was great, and it was just understood that, when Daddy left, Daddy was gone when we woke up and gone to work. And he didn't get back till late at night because he always had two jobs. And that was just understood, and that Mama would take care of everything.
Right.
And she did.
Yeah.
And sometimes my mom would get me so upset, boy, because she would tell me what to do, and I didn't want to be told
You
what
won't
to
do it.
No, man. And we had this thing, man. I had this thing when I was in school. I guess I talked a lot or whatever, but I would always get D's in conduct. I could get A's and B's in all the subjects, but in conduct, I'd get a D because I'd be talking the whole time to the people in the class. And we'd have a test and I'd be finished, man, and I'd start talking to all the other students and stuff, and they were still trying to get finished. And then
It runs in my family too, Tom. My mother was smart as a whip. She got A's, but then when I went to school,
boy, I'm telling
then my
you.
niece, my great niece, I mean, we just all got it. It's just terrible. It is what it is. You got the gene.
And those nuns would tell on me, they would say, well, he's smart and he does this, whatever, but he just talks all the time. He's just talking while the other kids are trying to learn. And if I was on my best behavior for that 6 weeks, I could probably get a C. And
That was the
That's
best.
not much of an improvement.
Not much.
I passed though, so
that works.
they let me go.
Yeah.
And then Mama was always she would when it got beyond her reach, she would turn me over to Daddy, and that wasn't any fun. And he was upset because he working 2 jobs, and now he's got to come home and deal with me.
Deal with that, yes. So we talk about our teachers. I think I was in the 7th grade before I had my first male teachers. All the first 6 years of my education were all female teachers, and I remember even my kindergarten teacher, Miss Packer, and a first grade teacher, Miss Pace, and my first teacher in 9th grade that I was so close to and like a friend more so than a teacher, Miss Clara Harrison, and my guidance counselor, Miss Valina McCants. Those women played such an important part in my life in developing who I am today, and helping me choose the college to attend and applying for scholarships and all those things that my parents ain't going to college, so that those women were very influential in helping sort of guide me in the right direction, making sure I got what I needed, had what I needed. Mrs. McCants got me involved in the Upward Bound program at Spring Hill College. So all of those women were, people who you never forget and had a wonderful impact on our lives.
You didn't have male teachers unless it was a coach.
Exactly.
You had the coach and you had the janitor. And the janitor wasn't a teacher, but you better do what he says.
Exactly. They were respected as well.
That's right. It's right. And so it was a different thing. And we had nuns and lay teachers.
Right.
So you had to mind them. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of like with Barbara. I think I was in junior high when I first had a male teacher.
Me too.
Yeah.
And when we lived in St. Louis, and all of the teachers were women, and they had one male teacher. He was Mr. McIntyre. I will never forget Mr. McIntyre. He was the most respected man on campus because, he was an athlete, but he was a subject teacher. He was not the coach. He was a subject teacher. He taught math.
Okay.
And he was an athlete, but he was so well respected. And this is a guy, all he had to do was look at you. And the guys would just pop right up into attention because they knew they could not challenge him.
Wow.
My first Caucasian male teacher was my music teacher in high school. And I'll never forget Mr. Gene Bryant was his name. And he was very creative. And he liked all different sorts of music. So we weren't just singing hymns. We would sing hymns in school, which was okay. And then we would sing all of this very classical music. And then we would do we had like a show choir. And so he kept us in so he exposed me to a lot of music so that I have a wide taste of music now. But he was important in my life as well as Mr. McIntyre. Very impressive men.
Yes.
Very different, but very impressive. Yeah. So men teachers, they were good. They were good. Even my coach was a female coach for all of the different teams. We had volleyball and softball and track. She did all of that. But those male teachers were important. They were.
Yeah. Yeah. Coach Banks was the athletic director.
Oh.
You were coming down one end of the hall. You saw Coach Banks on the other end. You found a way to find some steps, so you exit. You wouldn't want to have to go by him because he might say something to you.
While we're on the subject of celebrating and acknowledgement of Women's Month and Women's Day, which was on Sunday, I believe.
Yes.
I'd like to take this moment to say a thank you to the women that served in the military.
Yes.
As we talked about the traditional things, and there are just certain traditions where you automatically associate with one gender or another. And in the military, often we always associate there with men, but women have played their role in the military throughout. the years with America and what have you, because you remember we talked earlier about the post office. Your story, Barbara, where
Yes.
you remember back during, I think it was a World War II or something like that, one where all of the women were sent over there to uh, disperse the mail, and they turned it all around and all of that
Right.
type of stuff, and
Right.
also making the garments for the men to wear and stuff. So I think we need to acknowledge their contribution to the
Yes.
military.
Absolutely.
And I want
Absolutely.
to acknowledge a lady, the first woman I ever knew personally, one on one, to be in the military was Mrs. Odessa Warwick in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. She was also one of the foot soldiers in the civil rights movement in Tuscaloosa. And we started the first year we had a celebration of the veterans, and she showed up. And I'm like, Miss Warwick, what are you doing? She said, Oh, I was whack. I said, oh my gosh, I was so impressed. So all the men would bring their uniforms. They brought their badges for marksmanship, etc. She had this little hat, that the women wore.
Mm-hmm.
And she told her story about being in the military. And Michael, I was so impressed, so impressed. And I thought, how many more women have these little hats, maybe their uniforms too, and have a story to tell? And it's only of recent that this has really come to light. And when they would talk about Rosie, the Riveter,
Right.
well, there were black women who were Rosies too.
Right.
And so I have a T-shirt that I bought when I was in New Orleans that has Rosie the Riveter, and she looks like me. So, yes, we have to take our hats off to all the women who served in the military, but
Yes.
especially women who look like us because their journey was a little bit different, and they had to work a
Yes.
little bit harder, and they had to really excel in the military. Yeah. So
I
thank you for
agree.
bringing that up.
Let me give honor to when the show comes on. There's music at the beginning of the show and at the end of the show. The music belongs to Cheryl Jones, who her band is Jones and Company. They've been
Okay.
playing down here on the coast ever since I've been coming down here. They're awesome, and Cheryl is an incredible musician. Um, she's always allowed us to use her music uh, on the show, and I've used her music in plays and in other things, and it's a family unit. She and her husband and their son and a couple of other musicians are in the band called Jones and Company. So I want to thank her publicly for allowing us to use her music um, on the show at the beginning of the show and at the end. And I'd like to say a couple other things that we talk about women and what they've overcome. When I worked at Belsal and I was working for the office of the president of that company, um, we were going somewhere on the plane, and all the officers were on there. Well, there was the president, the vice president, and then my boss was the president's number one guy. He took care of everything the president wanted, and then I had to take care of everything he wanted. And so that was sort of how the pecking order. And we were getting ready to go somewhere, and but the plane wasn't moving. And so, my job was to go see what's happening, just
Right.
get it straight now. So I went up, and there was a woman pilot, and one of the vice presidents refused to fly with a woman pilot, and I mean, that just kind of freaked me out
Hmm.
because the woman was accredited, she was qualified, and everything else. But little Charlie, one of the vice presidents, we called him Little Charlie behind his back. Uh, little Charlie refused to fly with her,
Wow.
and so We sat there until they went and got a male pilot to, and she was actually a co-pilot, so they had to go get someone else to fly that plane.
It's crazy.
And,
that is crazy.
And then at one time we had I don't know what you called it, a State of the Union kind of thing or whatever, but all the, we govern 9 states. And so all the presidents, vice presidents or whatever came to this meeting. And, again, it was my job to take care of everything. And I'd never seen anything like this. All the men sat on the front row and all their wives sat behind them. And I had never seen anything like that. It's like, where y'all find women like this?
That's the kind of listen, Tom, that's the kind of price you pay for that good life they provide you. You're on the second row. That's where it is.
But it was an interesting.
Different.
I watched
It
that
is different.
transition from disrespecting women to totally bringing them on board by the time all that we had moved forward.
And little Charlie was kicking and screaming all the way.
Little Charlie was not going to fly on that plane, and so then it was so funny. It was my job,
your job,
to sit down and then to get another pilot. And I felt so bad for that woman.
Of course you did.
But
and it took probably little Charlie retiring or moving on before women were able to elevate in the company, because he didn't respect them and feel like they knew, had any knowledge of how to operate a company.
But see, little Charlie probably was the son of Mr. Charlie.
Yes.
Okay. Who had it been one of us up there 15 years earlier, he would have done the same thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it's like some men and some women have to have somebody that they can oppress to make them to feel important.
Yeah. And that's why we got some little Charlies running around in the current administration today.
Some of them are wearing skirts. Yeah, that's true.
I think little Charlie's gonna live on in infamy.
Probably so. Probably so.
Yeah.
Oh man, this has been great.
Tom, I got a couple more things before we go. I want to say happy birthday to my niece, Jade Johnson, great niece, who will be celebrating her birthday tomorrow, and one of our regular viewers on the show, one of the biggest Heat of the Night fans ever, Aunt Lee, will be celebrating his birthday this week as well on March 12th. So happy birthday, Aunt Lee.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Luke Loman is over in Covington, Georgia, which doubled as part of Mississippi for the show in the Heat of the Night. So, Laurie, I hope you're having a good time.
Absolutely.
So, let's see. Anybody got anything else?
Before we go, just to give something a little light.
Yes.
I just want to share the moment when I realized like how cool my mom was. We were in elementary school. My brother, he's like 3 years younger than me. She worked at Burger King at the time. And down here in South Florida, they had like a campaign going on about, they would have clowns come in, they paint the faces, they do balloon animals. And it was like a contest on who would be on the county's flyers to send out to promote Burger King. So some type of way, my mom got us on these flyers. So I didn't find out until later on that the way that she got us on this flyer, that she told the general manager that if he did not feature us on those flyers, she would quit.
Wow.
And we were featured on those flyers because she was like his top employee.
She put the pressure on.
Yes, she did. She did. And I never knew that until I was an adult. And I was like, so you were really cool.
She's cool.
Like a little bit. She's
cool.
She's Thanks, cool. Mom.
Oh wow.
We're gonna move on through here. I'm gonna go to my closing comment unless somebody else has got something here. So I want to recall another woman in my life that is an important part of my history. You rarely hear generally not the most positive thing. There aren't a lot of compliments for mother-in-laws. But that's not the case with my mother-in-law. My history with my mother-in-law, I'm proud to say she was my friend. She's passed now, but thoughts of her always makes me smile. She was a jewel. She welcomed me into their family. As I said, we were friends, even joke-telling friends. While I was living in Los Angeles, working in Los Angeles, I would place a morning call to Chicago every Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock to do a weekly catch-up with my mother-in-law and to tell her the latest joke that I'd heard. So during the week, I'd have to go find a new joke that I could tell her on Wednesday mornings. And she could then relay that joke to her friends a whole time that she was laughing. She said, wait, she would say, wait, let me get my pen so I can write this down. She was a beautiful, beautiful person. And I am proud to have had her in my life. My aunts, my mom, Terry Self, Hilda Horn, John Carroll, and my mom again, all as positive influences in my life. And that's our show for today. We want to thank the audience. As always, we appreciate you. Thank our sponsor, Best Girl Inc. Thanks again to the TWT team, Barbara, Sean, Emily, Mychal, Joyce, and Barbara. And as always, again, we thank the audience. And that's it for this March 10th in the year 2026. It went by kind of fast. A day without a smile is a day wasted. You got an extra smile, give it to somebody. It just might make their day. Enjoy yourself. Make every day count. Don't let a day go by that you don't take the time to make your life or somebody else's life better. Stay safe. Blessings. Peace.